Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Kodi Samaprabha. Nirvignam Kurme Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha. Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Gurave Sarva Lokana Vishaje Pavaroginam. Yadaye Sarva Vidyanam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Shruti Smriti Prananam Alayam Karunalayam. Namami Bhagavad Pada Shankaram Loka Shankaram. Apara Karuna Sindham Jnanadham Shantaropinam. Sri Chandrasekhara Gurum Pranamami Mudanvaham. Tadande Vasi Varyancha Jeevo Dharana Tatparam. Shri Jayendra Gurum Pujyam Pranamami Mudanvaham. Chaturdashavaya Praptam Sanyasam Sumahamatiam. Namami Shankararambham Shivajendra Saraswatim. Tadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam. Asmatacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Swasti Vachanam. Om Shri Kanchi Kamakoti Parayana Jagat Guru Shri Shankaracharya Shri Charanayo Shri Pranamaha Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Shri Mahatripura Sundari Sameta Shri Chandramolishwaraya Namaha. Swasti Stri Madakila Bhumandala Lankara Trayastrim Satkoti Devata Sevitam Shri Kamakshi Devi Sanata Shri Mate Kamranata Shri Mahadevi Sanata Shri Hastigirinata Sakshatkara Paramadhishtana Satyavrata Namangita Kanchi Divya Kshetre Sharada Mata Sustitanam Atulida Sudarasa Madhurya Kamalasana Kamini Dhammilla Sampulla Mallika Malika Nishchanda Makarandajari Sauvastika Vangnigumba Vizirmanananda Dundilida Maneshi Mandalanam Anavarada Dvaita Vidya Vinodarasikanam Nirantaralankriti Krita Shanti Danti Bhumnam Chakravona Chakra Pratishta Bhagashi Chakra Pratishta Vikhyate Asholankritanam Nikila Pashanda Shanda Kantakot Padanena Vishadikrita Veda Vedanta Marga Shanmada Pratishtabhakacharyanam Srimad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Varya Shri Jagat Guru Srimad Shankara Bhagavad Padacharyanam Adhisthane Simhasana Abhishekta Srimad Chandrasekharendra Saraswati Samyamindranam Ante Vasivampriya Shri Jayendra Saraswati Shri Padhanam Tadande Vasi Varya Srimad Shankara Vajendra Saraswati Shri Padhanancha Charana Nirinayo Saprachayam Sanjali Bandhancha Namaskurmaha. Hari Om. Kanchi Kamakoti Seva Foundation, Midwest Chapter, welcomes you all to this edition of Kamakoti Parayana Mandali. Today we have a very special program, lectured by Dr. Jambunathan Ramanathan on Introduction to Upanishads. Brief intro on Dr. Jambunathan. Dr. Jambunathan Ramanathan is an infectious diseases physician and currently a faculty member in the Department of Medicine at Detroit VA Hospital. He has been an active member of KKS of Midwest activities for past several years, participating in Maharudrams and Deivathin Kural Satsangams. He currently is the chair of Education Committee at SVBF North Temple in Farmington Hills, Michigan. He was the editor of SV Temple, Novi, Michigan, religious magazine Sri Panchajanya for 5 years. He has been conducting lectures on topics related to Sanatana Dharma in the Detroit area for the past 10 years. So it's a great opportunity and our humble namaskaram to Dr. Jambunathan. So everyone look forward to a great program today. On to Dr. Jambunathan. Hari Om.
Namaskaram, Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Thank you, Sri Ram, for the kind introduction, and thanks to the KKS of Midwest chapter for inviting me for this auspicious program. And let me start with the sloka. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Shuklam Bharadaram Vishnum Sashivarnam Sadarbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantehe Yashwadrida Vagdradya Parishadya Parasadam Vignam Nignati Satatam Vishwakshenam Tamashraye Jnanananda Mayam Devam Nirmala Spatika Kritim Adaram Sarva Vidyanam Hayagrimu Upasmahem Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Gurum Paramparam Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Lakshmi Narayana Brahmane Namo Namaha. So we are in this auspicious day, which is sandwiched between the Indian Independence Day, which happened just yesterday, and then the Krishna Jayanti, which is going to happen day after tomorrow. So it's a very auspicious time in the Shravana Masa. All of us did the Yajurupa Karma also a few days ago. And Veda Dhyanam is supposed to be ordained after the Upakarma, and Upanishads being part of the Vedas. It's very auspicious that we are starting with this Upanishad discussion on this time period. So what I want to discuss today is, I want to talk under 10 headings. Hopefully I will cover that all in the 90-minute time period. First, I want to give what is the importance of Upanishads. Then I want to give a brief organization of the Vedic literature. Then I want to give a brief classification of the Upanishads. Then relate the Bhagavad Geetha and Brahma Sutra, which are also important. How are they connected to the Upanishads? Who is the Adhikari, or who is qualified for learning the Upanishads? What is the procedure for learning the Upanishads and using it for spiritual progress? Then I'm going to give a brief synopsis of all the 10 Upanishads which Adi Shankara has chosen for all of us in the Kali Yuga to learn. And I want to touch about Chandogya Upanishad, which is the largest Upanishad which is given to us, and what is the importance of it. And if possible, I will touch a little bit about Prashna Upanishad, which is my favorite Upanishad, and give a few slokas on that. And finally talk about how the Upanishads lead us to both Nirguna Upasana, Saguna Upasana, Krama Mukti, and Jivan Mukti. So those are the 10 headings which I want to try to cover today. So the first topic is importance of Vedanta. So Upanishads are considered Vedanta. Whenever we use the term Vedanta, it actually refers to Upanishads, because Veda Antam means which comes at the end of the Vedas. So once we know the structure of the Vedas, each Shaka, the Upanishads come in the last part of each Shaka of all the Vedas. So when we tell Vedanta, it basically refers to the Upanishad teachings. So why is it important that we should learn Vedanta? So we are learning all our material sciences, other things. Why is it important to learn the Vedanta or Upanishad? So when I term Vedanta, you can mean it is Upanishad. Upanishad, Vedanta are synonyms. Same thing, Jnana Kanda of the Vedas or Uttara Mimamsa, Shruti Shira. All these refer to Shruti Shira means head of the Vedas. So Veda Anta means one, but even the part of the Vedas, if you consider Vedas as a human body, the head of the Vedas is considered to be the Upanishad, Shruti Shira. Ramanujacharya, Shankaracharya, everybody refers to Upanishads as only Shruti Shira, which is the head of the Vedas. So Shruti Shira, Vedanta, Upanishads, Jnana Kanda, Uttara Mimamsa, these are all same terms. So that is the first terminology. So why is it important to learn this? You know, Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita tells a very telling sloka in the 9th chapter, 33rd sloka. Anityam ashukam lokam iham prapya bhajasvamam. It tells to Arjuna, Krishna himself tells, who is the creator? The Lord who is the creator himself tells, Anityam ashukam lokam. This loka is very temporary. It is full of misery. Anityam asukam lokam. Coming into this world, always meditate on me. That's what Lord Krishna himself specifically tells Arjuna. So this is coming from the Lord's mouth itself. This world is full of misery, and we can see it. Last 2-3 years, the COVID pandemic, how it affected everybody, how many people died, how many people suffered morbid illness, and then how the economy went down and all that stuff. So we can see practically, you know, Lord Krishna tells it, but all of us can experience this in our life, where everybody has illness, everybody has financial troubles, everybody has family problems. So this is, so the only way to get out of this is by learning Vedanta. That is what Adi Shankara says, and even the Vedas itself tells that. So, and Lord Adi Shankara has composed a sloka called Lakshmi Narasimha Karavalamba Stotram. Samsara Dava Dahanadura Bigaroru Jwala Avalipi Damstragla. She says, Samsara Sharpa Vishala Karala Kala. He says the entire samsara is like sarpa, snake, and he gives a lot of examples. There are 17 slokas in the Lakshmi Narasimha Karavalambam, and he compares the samsara, which is our human transmigrating life, as a deadly forest, a deep ocean, a forest fire, thousands of snakes biting us. So he compares like a lot of slokas where he compares this. So whatever Lord Krishna tells in the Bhagavad Gita, Adi Shankara is giving by different examples how this samsara, which is this our worldly life, is filled with trouble. And he prays to Lakshmi Narasimha, please elevate me from this samsara. So that is the whole sloka of Lakshmi Narasimha Karavalamba Stotram. Samsara Sharpa Ganabhaktra Bhayoktra Tivra. So it says it is like the deadly snake whose poisons are always stinging me. That is one example only I'm giving. There are several examples he gives. So Adi Shankara, Lord Krishna, everybody compares this. So, and the only way to get rid of the samsara is because in Hinduism, Sanatana Dharma, we believe there is birth, rebirth, and death. So unless the Atma or the soul attains, the state of the Brahman, it is going to transmigrate. So unless you get the Brahma Jnanam, you are going to keep transmigrating. So what is the solution? Like, where is the solution that Vedanta is going to help us? So we are telling the world is a problem. Vedanta solution, is there a proof for it? We tell this sloka every day. The Sannyasa Suktam, na karmana, na pradyadane, na dhyakene, kamrudatva manashuhum, arena nahum nikitam guhayam, vibradit ediyo vishanti, Vedanta Vigyan Sunishchadar Daga Sanyasha Yugatide Shuddha Shadvaha Te Brahmaloke Tupra Antakale Paramrudat Purimuchanti Sarve. The sloka goes like that. This comes in the part of the Mahanarayana Upanishad, part of the Taittiriya Upanishad. It is also mentioned in the Kaivalya Upanishad. So this is a sloka coming directly from the Upanishad itself. Vedanta Vigyan Sunishchadar Daha Sanyasha Yoga Tede Shuddha Shadvaha Te Brahmaloke tu Parantakale. So only those who have a Vedanta Vijnana Sunishchadartaha, who have a very crystal clear understanding of the Vedantic meaning and who have imbibed it into that and are experiencing the Vedantic meaning in experience, they are the ones who can merge with Brahman at the end of their life. So this is what it says. So that is a direct sloka from the Upanishad itself, which says only by Vedanta you can attain your final liberation or the final bliss. So because when Krishna says Anityam Asukam Lokam, there should be a Nityam Sukam. Nityam means eternity. Sukam means bliss. So there should be a place or a position which we call Nityam Sukam or eternal bliss. So that eternal bliss can be attained only by learning the Vedantas and experiencing what the Vedantas are telling. And even for that, there is a sloka from Vivekachudamani. Adi Shankara says, it is the 45th sloka in Vivekachudamani. Vedantartha vicharena jayate jnanamuttamam tena adyantika samsara dukkha nasho bhavatyanu. There cannot be much clearer than that. Vedanta artha vicharena jayate jnanamuttamam. Only by vicharam, which means you have to keep on investigating the meaning of the Vedanta. Through that jnanamuttamam, you get the best knowledge. Because of that knowledge, Tena adyantika samsara dukkha nasho bhavatyanu. Only by this completely the dukkha of samsara is uprooted. Adyantika means complete, from beginning to end, all the dukkham. So there is so what is the solution? Adi Shankara himself clearly says only by investigating the Vedanta clearly one can get rid of this samsara dukkha nasam. And then Adi Shankara himself tells in the Sadhana Panchakam. So we talked about Kaivalya Upanishad. Sadhana Panchakam, everybody knows Adi Shankara's final instructions before he left his mortal body. And the second shloka and the third shloka, I'm just not going to read the full one, but the ones relevant to us. Brahmaik aksharam artyatam, Shrutishiro vakyam samakarnyatam, Bhakyarthascha vicharyatam, Shrutishira paksha samashriyatam. So these come in the second and third shlokas of Sadhana Panchakam. Adi Shankara clearly says, Brahmaik aksharam artyatam, Shrutishiro vakyo samakarnyatam. Shruti Shira, again, I told you, Shruti Shira means head of the Vedas, which is Upanishads. keep investigating. Vakya tarscha vicharyatam. All the vakyams, the Mahavakyams in the Upanishads, keep on investigating it. Sudhishra Paksha Samashriyatam. And always, when in doubt, take the side of the Upanishads. If there is some conflict, which is correct, which is not correct, take the side of the Upanishads. Sudhishra Vakya Samashriyata means take refuge only in the Upanishadic declarations. So Adi Shankara is repeating what is in Vedanta Vivekachudamani is telling in the Sadhana Panchakam also, keep on investigating the Vedanta. That is the most important thing. And he has repeatedly told in 2-3 slokas that. And then there is another sloka which comes in Siddhanta Sankaraha. Appayya Dikshitar is another great Advaita after Adi Shankara. Like Adi Shankara, Vidyaranya Swami and Appayya Dikshitar, these are all considered avatars of Lord Shiva and they are vast in knowledge. In his Siddhanta Sankaraha, Appayya Dikshitar says, Asuptehe, Amurtehe, Kalam Nayet Vedanta Chintaya, Dadyan Navasaram Kinjit, Kama Dinam Managapi. Asuptehe. Supta means sleep, Sushupti. We talk about Sushupti, Swapna, Jagrat when we talk about Vedanta. Asuptehe means until you go to sleep. Amrutehe, Mrityu means death. Amritam means immortality. Amrute means till you die. So Asuptehe, Amrutehe means till you go to sleep and till you die. Kalam Nayet Vedanta Chintaya. Spend your time investigating the Vedanta. Spend Kalam Nayet Vedanta Chintaya. When I think about this, Swami Desikendra tells in one of his slokas that he spent his entire life, his hair grew, his hair even became white. He spent his life investigating Ramanuja's Sri Bhashyam. And Sri Bhashyam is basically Ramanujacharya's interpretation of the Brahma Sutra, which is again the interpretation of the Upanishads. So Swami Desikendra says his hair grown white just by investigating the Vedanta, and he's very happy about it. So that's what Appayya Dikshitar also says. Asuptehe, Amrutehe, Kalam Nayet Vedanta Chintaya, Dadya Navasaram Kinjit, Kama Dinam Managapi. Don't give rise to other desires. So this is the only desire you should have is to Vedanta Chintaya. And not only that, I don't want to spend too much time on this. Adi Shankara goes into Vivekachudamani and tells anything other than Vedanta is useless also. Don't keep on doing pujas, don't keep on doing pranayamas. There are specific slokas like that itself in Vivekachudamani. Don't spend your time. You need all these, but only up to a limit. So he specifically even condemns them at some points in the Vivekachudamani. So that is the importance of Vedanta. So I be told what is the problem, what is the solution. Now coming to the organization of the Vedic literature, we know most of us know about this. Mahaperiyava is also very nicely described in the Deivathin Kural. The Vedas are, the Veda Ananto vai Vedaha. Vedas are infinite. Basically, we cannot even tell how much content is there in the Vedas. But in the end of Kali Yuga, because Vedavyasa Maharishi knows that people in Kali Yuga are not that intellectual, they are not having that broad-based knowledge, their ability to grasp things is much lower. So he classified the infinite Vedas into finite. So it was only, he just made the infinite Vedas finite only for the Kali Yuga people. And we know he classified into Rig, Yajur, Sama, Atharvana Veda. And, each Veda is like a lot of shakas are there, like Maitrayani Shaka is there in Yajur Veda. There is, the Kaushitaki Shaka in Rig Veda. So like this, there are all these shakas are there in the different Vedas also. Shaka means like a branch. So, and like a branch means each branch will have a twig, there will be a leaf, there will be a fruit, there will be a flower. So one branch itself will have a twig, leaf, fruit, flower. Same thing, each Shaka has 4 parts. Samhita, Brahmana, Aranyaka, Upanishad. So the Vedas are 4. Each Vedas has multiple Shakas and each Shaka has a Samhita part, Brahmana part, Aranyaka part, Upanishad part. The Samhita and Brahmana come under the Karma Kanda, which is basically the Vedic mantra chanting and performing the Vedic rituals. Aranyaka comes in between. It is kind of Upasana thing, and which is done for the people who are in the Vanaprastha ashrama. And finally, the Upanishad part, which is the knowledge part, the Jnana Kanda part comes. And that is what originally the idea was that when the Varnashrama Dharma was followed, there used to be the Brahmacharya, the Grihastha, the Vanaprastha, and the Sannyasa. So the Brahmacharis are supposed to be following the Samhitas, and learning the Vedas. The Grahasthas are supposed to be following the Brahmanas and doing the Vedic karmas. And then the Vanaprasthas, who are kind of semi-retired, have to do meditation, the Aranyakas. And finally, the sannyasas who have relinquished the material life, they are the ones who are fully eligible to focus on the Upanishads and get the Brahma Jnanam through it. But no, not everybody can become a sannyasi and not everybody is mature enough. So Mahaperiva himself tells that though Vedanta is like that, that right from Brahmacharya itself, we should start learning it as part of it. And then we should also keep doing the karmas to kind of mentally and physically purify us. And at one point, we can leave these karmas and just focus on the Upanishads alone. So basically, this is the organization. But when Vedavyasa gave the Vedas to us at the end of the Kali Yuga, he gave us totally 1,180 shakas, 1180. There were about 1,000 shakas of the Samaveda, 109 shakas of Yajurveda, 21 shakas of Rig Veda, and 50 shakas of Atharvana Veda. So this is add up to 1180. This is what was given at the end of Dwapara Yuga, and he gave the rishis to propagate it. But due to the problems of Kali Yuga, where people don't have the interest or the spiritual maturity, we have lost all of the shakas, even when we know how much Mahaperiva is worked during his lifetime to retain at least a few shakas. Now it is hand counting only, no longer 1,000 shakas. We can count all the Yajur, Rig, Atharvana, Samaveda shakas. It's hand, like you can count like 15 or 10 shakas only are existing right now. And Mahaperiva wants to preserve that also. So he did a lot of effort during his time period. So even the 1,180 shakas which is available is no longer available to us. So if you look at the math, so if there are 1,180 shakas from all the 4 Vedas, each shaka should have one Upanishad. So we should theoretically have 1180 Upanishads given to us by Vedavyasa at the end of Dwapara Yuga, beginning of Kali Yuga, 1180 Upanishads, because each shaka will have an Upanishad at the end. But even that all are gone, we have only 108 Upanishads. But at least the number of Upanishads is better than the number of shakas, the entire Samhita, Brahmana shakas we have. So we have only 108 Upanishads available to us at the present time. And the split is Rig Veda has 10 Upanishads, Sama Veda has 16 Upanishads, Krishna Yajurveda has 32 Upanishads, Shukla Yajurveda has 19 Upanishads, and Atharva Veda has 31 Upanishads. So basically, if you add up 31 plus 19 plus 32 plus 16 plus 8 plus 10, it will come to 108 Upanishads. So these are the 108 Upanishads which we have right now. And the interesting point is there is only one spiritual person who has done commentary on all the 108 Upanishads. His name was Upanishad Brahmendra, and he actually lived in Kanchipuram, and Mahaperiva has given importance to that mutt too. And because that's the only he lived during the same time of the famous Tyagaraja Bhagavatar, the music singer and composer. They were Muthuswami Dikshitar, Tyagaraja Bhagavatar, Upanishad Brahmendra were all contemporary. They were like a few years elder, younger to each other, but they lived at the same time period. In fact, there is stories of both Muthuswami Dikshitar and Tyagaraja Bhagavatar meeting and interacting with Upanishad Brahmendra in Kanchipuram itself. The story is there. So this Upanishad Brahmendra Swami is the only one who did commentary on all the 108 Upanishads. Whereas when Shankaracharya did, he picked up only 10 major Upanishads and he did commentary on 10 of the major Upanishads. That is what most of us follow, is the Shankara commentary only most of us are following. And in the Ramanuja Sampradaya, Ramanuja did not do commentaries, but one of his followers, Rangaramanuja Desikendra, also did commentaries on all these major Upanishads. Madhvacharya and his followers also did commentaries, the Dvaita Sampradaya, for these Upanishads. So there are commentaries by several Acharyas, but Upanishad Brahmendra is the one who has written commentaries on all 108 Upanishads, and I think it is Daya or Sanskrit library or something has preserved all these commentaries. That is what I was told. So this is kind of the thing in the Upanishads. And out of the Upanishads, there are 10 Upanishads, Daso Upanishad they call. Some people Dwadasa Upanishad. So there is 10, because even though Adi Shankara has commented on 10, the other 2, Kaushitaki Upanishad and Shvetashvatara Upanishad, he frequently quotes also. So though he has not written commentary, and same way Ramanujacharya also very frequently quotes from the Shvetashvatara Upanishad and the Kaushitaki Upanishad. The Ishavasya Upanishad, Tato Upanishad, Taittiriya Upanishad, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, and Shvetashvatara Upanishad. These are the 5 Upanishads which belongs to Yajurveda. The Ishavasya and Brihadaranyaka belongs to Shukla Yajurveda. whereas the Taittiriya Upanishad, Katha Upanishad, and Svetashvatara Upanishad belong to the Krishna Yajurveda. So out of the 10 major Upanishads, the 5 belong to the, out of the 12 we can say, because 10 commentaries are written, but 2 are frequently quoted. So out of the 12 major Upanishads, 5 belong to the Yajurveda. Then Keno Upanishad and Chandogya Upanishad, those 2 belong to the Samaveda. Prashna Upanishad, Mundaka Upanishad, and Mandukya Upanishad, those 3 belong to the Atharva Veda. And Aitreya Upanishad and Kaushitaki Upanishad belong to the Rig Veda. So these are considered to be the 12 major Upanishads, which are frequently quoted by all the acharyas. And most of the content, what you need is in this 12. If you know this 12 Upanishads thoroughly itself, whatever Vedanta knowledge, that's why Adi Shankara is, he knows what we need. He selectively chose only these, because there is no way we are not going to master all the 108 Upanishads and all. So this, if you don't know anything, at least the 10 Upanishads and plus the 2 Svetashvatara and Kaushitaki, 12, you will have all the information or most of the information you need for the spiritual evolution. And then there is another way of classifying these 108 Upanishads. The major and minor Upanishad is the one. So these are major, everything else is considered minor. That is one classification. And they also classify a Shaiva Upanishad, which means those Upanishads will talk about the glory of, they will give the Vedantic meaning, but they will also talk about the glory of Shiva or Rudra. For example, Kaivalya Upanishad, Jabala Upanishad are all part of the Shaiva Upanishad. And then there is Shakta Upanishad, which means they will talk about the greatness of Ambal, Bhavanu Upanishad, Tripura Tapani Upanishad. These are all examples of the Shakta Upanishads. And then there are Vaishnava Upanishads, which talk about the glory of Lord Narayana. There is the Narayana Upanishad, there is the Dattatreya Upanishad, Ayagriva Upanishad. Those are all, they talk about the Lord Narayana. There are 17 Sannyasa Upanishads. They just talk about the glory of Sannyasa and how to follow the Sannyasa, like what are the protocols in Sannyasa, what are Sannyasis supposed to do, how are Sannyasis supposed to spiritually evolve themselves over time. Everything is described. For example, there is an Upanishad called Paramahamsa Upanishad, which is part of Sannyasa Upanishad. And Vidyaranya Swami quotes very frequently from Paramahamsa Upanishad in his Jivan Mukti Viveka. So that is there. And then there are 20 Yoga Upanishads. We talk about Patanjali Yoga Sutras and all, because Yoga Sutra also is dependent only on the Veda. Because we call the Nyaya Darshana, Vaisheshika, Shankya, Yoga, Mimamsa, Vedanta, all the Shad Darshanas, the 6 Darshanas, they all rely only on the Veda. They only use the Vedic content to bring out their philosophy. So the Yogas also came out only of the Vedas. There are 20 Yoga Upanishads, like Shandilya Upanishad, Amrita Bindu Upanishad. There is like 20 of them. So there are 14 of the 108 Upanishads are considered Shaiva Upanishad, 8 are Shakta Upanishads, 14 are Vaishnava Upanishads, 17 are Sannyasa Upanishads, 20 are Yoga Upanishads. So when you read the Yoga Upanishads, they give you all the details of the yogas, and whatever is found only in these Upanishads, very nicely Patanjali condenses and puts in the Patanjali Yoga Sutra. So if you read Patanjali Yoga Sutra, you will pretty much get all the important information on the Yoga Upanishads found all in the Upanishads there. So that is to give you a brief idea of all the the Upanishads, which are the major Upanishads, and so what are we supposed to know? And then at this point, I want to talk about the Bhagavad Geetha and the Brahma Sutra. So Bhagavad Geetha, there is a very famous sloka: Sarvopanishado Gavo Dogda Gopala Nandanaha Partho Vatso Sutir Bhokta Dugdam Geeta Mritam Mahat. So what Lord Krishna does is Sarvopanishado Gavo. All the Upanishads are like a cow. And Lord Krishna is the milkman. He condenses the milk and gives it to Arjuna. Dugdam Geeta Mritam Mahat, the condensed milk. So basically, Lord Krishna takes all the Upanishads together and brings the message of the Upanishads in a condensed milk. So the Upanishads, like I said, 108 Upanishads, so much Upanishads, we can't learn all of them. In that case, if you learn Bhagavad Geetha is nothing but the summary of all the Upanishads. So if you have read the Upanishads, you will see, oh, this part of Bhagavad Gita looks like Prashna Upanishad. This part of Bhagavad Gita looks like Shvetashvatara Upanishad. This part of Bhagavad Gita looks like Katha Upanishad. So if you have read the Upanishads and then you read the Bhagavad Gita, you can easily relate how Lord Krishna is bringing all the Upanishads in one place. So Sarvopanishado Gavo Dogda Gopala Nandanaha Partho Vatso Sudir Bhokta Dugdam Geeta Mritam Mahat. So that's why even in the Bhagavad Gita, we say in the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Su, Upanishads, even the end of Bhagavad Gita, each chapter will tell it's a Upanishad only. So Bhagavad Gita is nothing but the summary of all the Upanishads. Same thing, Brahma Sutra was written by Veda Vyasa Maharishi. And now Veda Vyasa Maharishi, because we owe a lot to him. He's the one who codified the Vedas and gave it to the Paila, Vaishampayana, Jaimini, and Sumantu Maharishis, the Rig, Yajur, Sam, Atharvana Veda to propagate. And he is the one who also composed the 18 Puranas. It is said the Vishnu Purana alone was composed by his father Parasara Maharishi and he propagated it. The other Puranas are composed by Veda Vyasa Maharishi. In fact, Bhagavatam was composed by Vyasa Maharishi but propagated by Sukha Maharishi. So the Vishnu Purana was composed by Parasara Maharishi and propagated by Veda Vyasa Maharishi. And the Bhagavatam was composed by Veda Vyasa Maharishi but propagated by his son Sukha Maharishi. So those are all the Puranas he gave. And then he wrote the Itihasa, the Mahabharatam, the Laksha Grantha, the 1 lakh Grantha containing Mahabharata. And then he also wrote the Brahma Sutras, because same thing like Lord Krishna, Veda Vyasa also know that people in Kali Yuga are not that intellectual, they don't have the spiritual maturity, they can't read all these Upanishads. So in the Brahma Sutra, he brings the concept of the Upanishads in 555 sutras. According to Adi Shankara, there are 555 sutras, and each sutra is actually an explanation of only the Upanishadic terms, different Upanishad, like Chandogya Upanishad is the one frequently quoted, but other Upanishad concepts are also taken and discussed in the Brahma Sutra. So Brahma Sutra again is also only, tying up all the Upanishads in one place. So Bhagavad Gita is also bringing all Upanishads in one place. Brahma Sutra is also bringing all the Upanishads in one place. So basically, what I'm trying to tell is the other scriptures are also only trying to tell what the Upanishads are telling. And then we have the Prakarana Granthas, which has been written by Acharyas like Adi Shankara's Vivekachudamani and Vidyaranya Swamiji's Pancha Dashee, Appayya Dikshitar Siddhanta Sangraha. We can go on listing. These are all individual scriptures composed by these Acharyas during different time periods. And this also has only summary of the Upanishads. Adi Shankara himself tells only what I'm the Upanishads I'm trying to condense and give in the Vivekachudamani. So when you're reading the Vivekachudamani or the Pancha Dashee or the Siddhanta Sangraha, it is again the message of the Upanishad which is given in a much easier format to all of us. So that is the, then if you go to the Puranas, like there is Sutta Samhita in the Skanda Purana, and there is Yoga Vashishta, which is composed by Valmiki Rishi, which is a discussion between Vashishta Maharishi and Rama, which is a very big scripture. And then there is, the Ribu Geetha, there's Uddhava Geetha, there is Tripura Rahasya. A lot of these individual scriptures which you find in the Puranas, they are also Upanishad message only. So whatever the Sutta Samhita in Skanda Purana or the Yoga Vashishta, which comes as an annex to the Ramayana, it is not part of the Ramayana, but it comes as an annex to the Ramayana. So those are all actually again explaining only the Upanishadic concepts. So all these important scriptures, you either directly learn the Upanishads or you're indirectly learning the Upanishads. So that is the most of the scriptures are based only on because why is the Upanishads important? Because they are coming part of the Shruti, because we don't believe the Upanishads is authored by anybody. Though if you go to Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, there is a lot of discussion by Yajnavalkya Maharishi is there. Lot of discussions by Yajnavalkya Maharishi. So if you go to Chandogya Upanishad, there is the the discussion between Uddala Karuni and his son Svetaketu. So it has specific rishis. So you are telling this rishi wrote is Sanatana, and then Sanat Kumara Maharishi gives the Bhuma Vidya and Chandogya Upanishad. So we are telling these individual rishis. So why is it not like Yoga Vashishta? Yoga Vashishta, you're telling Valmiki Rishi is writing. And here Sanat Kumara is giving this chapter and Uddala Karuni Rishi is giving this chapter. What we believe the difference is the Upanishads which are part of the Vedas, the Rishis are not telling their own thoughts. It is the revealed, whatever the Lord has revealed to them because of their Tapo Shakti, they are revealing to us. So these are all, though it comes from the mouth of the Rishis, they are not supposed to be the composers. They are only mantra drashtas, not mantra kartas. Karta means you are composing the mantra. Like for example, Saundra Lahari, Adi Shankara composed is a mantra karta for that. Swami Desikendra composed Daya, sathakam, and Lord Venkateshwara is a mantra karta. Whereas the Rishis are all mantra drashtas. They are all intuitively getting the message from the Lord, and that's what they are revealing to us. So though it's a special Rishi mentioned telling this chapter or that chapter, we still believe it is directly the Lord's revelations coming through them. So that is why the Upanishads are given such a high level because they are all considered directly revealed by the Lord through the Rishis. Whereas Yoga Vashishta and all, Valmiki Maharishi is thinking in his mind, he has read the Upanishad and he's trying to give the Upanishads in an easy form. He thinks about it and he creates the Yoga Vashishta and Sutta Samhitas, again Vyasa Maharishi, Skanda Purana. These are all thinking and created. That's why it's called Smritis. You think and then create about it. It is not revealed. So there's a difference between revealing and thinking and creating. So that's why the Upanishads are given a high stature, because we believe, like the Christians believe the 10 commandments are directly Lord's revelation to the Moses. So we all believe the Upanishads are direct revelations coming through us to various rishis. So that is the importance of, why the Upanishads are given such a high stature. And that is why they are considered infallible, which means if you see it for that matter, the entire Vedas are infallible. Whatever is said in the Vedas, they are not wrong, because they're all, entire Vedas are revealed. All the more the same applies to Upanishads, which are also part of the Vedas only. So that is kind of the importance of, the other scriptures also are being tied up only to the Upanishads, is what I want to emphasize there. So after that, I want to discuss about the Adhikari of the Vedanta. So we talked about how Upanishads are the solution for the dukkha of the samsara and other things. So who is eligible to learn? Adhikari means learning. So all of us know you have to finish high school, pass your exams, and then only you can go to college. And then same thing, you have to pass your college and get good recommendations. Then only you go to masters or PhDs or something like that. So you have to qualify at one level to go to the next level. So what is the qualification? Who can learn Vedanta? What is the qualification? To put it in very simple terms, it is basically sense control and mental maturity. I would put it in, if you want to put it in a very nutshell, Tamil we call Pulanadakkam Manamudurchi, which is sense control and mental maturity. Though people are able to control their senses, not going through too much materialistic things, and who are able to have some kind of mind control, and also the intellect should be sharp to grasp the meanings of the Upanishads. You cannot have a dull intellect. Very clearly, Yamadharma Raja says to Nachiketa, it is like walking in a sharp sword. You need to be very sharp to grasp the meanings of the subtle meanings of the Upanishads. In Katha Upanishad, very nice discussion between Yamadharma Raja and Nachiketa, and Yamadharma Raja says how you need to have a sharp intellect to grasp these things. So you need to have some kind of a mental maturity and sense control. That is in simple terms. But our Acharya say Sadhana Chatushtayam, which is you need to have the Chatushtayam means 4. Viveka, Vairagya, Shatsampat, Mumukshutva. Viveka means the ability to Vivekam means Allah Vivekodayam, Vivekamna, the one who has got a very good knowledge or very clear knowledge. Paguttarivu. Mahapariva used to tell our Paguttarivu is different from the Paguttarivu of some of the politicians. But the Paguttarivu is what we call Viveka. And there is Viveka means what is Adi Shankara defines it very well in Vivekachudamani. Nitya Anitya Vastu Viveka. We have to differentiate which is permanent, which is eternal, and which is temporary and transient. So the ability to discriminate between the eternal and the transient, that is the most important Viveka. Or Sat Asat Vastu Viveka, some people tell, which is Satyam, which is the real truth, which are all considered the lesser truths. So because in Advaita, we believe in lesser truths. There are truths, lesser truths, and false. So we have Paramarthika Satya, Vyavaharika Satya, Pratibhashika Satya, then comes Asatya. So Asatya means false. Then we have 3 levels of truth. Paramarthika Satya means that is the eternal final truth. Vyavaharika Satya is the temporary truth. And Pratibhashika Satya is illusory truth which just lasts for a short time. So these are all different levels of truths. So the ability to differentiate the highest truth from other truths and false, that's called Sat Asat Vastu Viveka or Nitya Anitya Vastu Viveka. That is Viveka. Vairagya means Vairagyam, which means you are not, again, which means sense control. You are not too much into materialistic things, enjoying this or doing that or doing this all the time. Vishaya Vasana they call. But trying to do pujas and meditations and getting spiritually involved. So those are all the Vairagya part. The Vairagya grows higher and higher. Sannyasas Vairagya is so high, they are not even supposed to see certain things and do certain things. They can only eat so much limited food and all. So the Vairagyam keeps growing. So Viveka, Vairagya. Shat Sampat means 6 good qualities. That is Shama, Dhamma, Titiksha, Uparati, Shraddha, Samadhana. There is definitions of all these very nicely given by Adi Shankara in Vivekachudamani, by Sadananda Swami in Vedanta Sara. There is a lot of this. So these are the good qualities. So basically you should develop the calmness of mind. Since Samadhama is again basically Shama means mind control. Dhamma means sense control. So same thing. Mind is well controlled, not going in too many things, and senses are well controlled, not always enjoying pleasures. So these are all. And then Samadhana means always equanimous. Uparati means, Titiksha means ability to bear all the, sufferings and things very, with a calm mind. So most of us may not be mature, but at least we know these are all what is expected. And then mumukshutva is the last one, which is desire for liberation. Some people will tell, I am enjoying my earthly life, I don't want liberation. Okay, that's a different story. But people, we believe in birth after death and punarabi maranam, punarabi jadanam, punarabi jadani, jadare shayanam. Adi Shankara tells in Bhajagovindam. So we believe the transmigration and the soul, unless you reach the final stage, it keeps on coming for life again and again. So you should want to get rid of that. That is mumukshutva, is trying to get rid of the cycles of birth and death. So Viveka, Vairagya, Shat Sampad, Mumukshutva. These are the 4 qualities called Sadhana Chatushtayam. Ramanujacharya adds one more thing. He wants, before you learn Vedanta, he wants you to be a master of Mimamsa too. Puramimamsa. So Jaimini Sutras you should know well. Because which Piriva himself, Mahapiriva himself brings in his Deivathin Kural, that you should be knowing the Nyaya Shastras, Mimamsa Shastras to some extent. Only then you can interpret the Vedanta very well. So you need the Nyaya and Mimamsa to ability to grasp the Vedanta meaning. You need the science of logic and the science of Vedic investigation, which is Nyaya and Mimamsa. So those are all additional factors. So besides the Sadhana Chatushtaya, you need to have some idea of logic and some idea of Mimamsa, so that you can have a good grasp of the Vedanta. So these are all some kind of qualifications, but like to put it in simple terms, try to achieve some sense control, some mental maturity, and mental calmness. So these are all the criteria. Then we can start learning Vedanta, and as we learn and meditate, it will itself take. That's what Pariva says. Once you start that, it will itself take you to the next level. So that is what the Adhikari, I want to little bit talk about the Adhikari of the Vedanta, who is the qualified to learn Vedanta. Then comes what is the procedure for learning the Upanishads. So which is the Jnana Yoga. So basically, once you are qualified, what is the procedure to learn the Upanishads? So that is what, because in Adi Shankara's philosophy, we believe in Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Jnana Yoga. And that is what we also believe Lord Krishna is slowly elaborating, because we believe the first 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita focuses on Karma Yoga. The middle 6 chapters focus on Bhakti Yoga, and the last 6 chapters focus on Jnana Yoga. So we also believe Lord Krishna also takes the Pradama Shadga, Madhyama Shadga, and Antima Shadga, first 6, middle 6, and last 6. Lord Krishna also takes us to the same steps, Karma Yoga first, Bhakti Yoga next, Jnana Yoga next. Because if you go to Gunatita, Kshetrajna Vibhaga Yoga, all those in the last 6 chapters, they are describing all these knowledge concepts there. And there is also some practice Upasana also added in the 6 chapters, but the emphasis is more on Jnana there. So Adi Shankara also goes to the same steps. First you do the karma, like the Vedic karma, Vedo Nitya Madhiyatam, Tatvuditam Karnam Swanishtiyatam, Tadvudita Karma Swanishtiyatam. That's what Adi Shankara says in Sadhana Panchakam, learn the Vedas, follow the Vedic karmas. Well, we don't do Agnihotras these days, at least do Panchayatana Puja, or at least do 1 puja or Sandhya Vadana daily. So basically, those are the karma stage. First, you have to do those karmas, and as you do the karmas, nishkamya, which means without expectation of rewards, that itself will keep your mind pure. So doing the Vedic karmas without expecting fruits, or the nishkamya karma, that itself is the first step. And then after that, you have to do bhakti upasanas, you have to do all the Purana reading, pilgrimages, mantra japas, pujas, Ishta Devata, focus on one Devata and do upasanas. So because of that only you attain Chitta Ekagra also. So by doing karma, this is what Pariva combines as karma upasana. Karma is the doing all the rituals part, and the upasana is all the deity related or the Devata related meditation and all the things related to that, or the pujas, meditations, and all those come under that. So that is the next step. So once you do the karma yoga and the bhakti yoga, and your mind, as they call Chitta Shuddhi and Chitta Ekagra. The example given is if you have a water which is rapidly moving water, or also even the mirror. Let's say you have a mirror and you want to see your face. The mirror is covered by dust and the mirror is constantly shaking. You can't see their face well. But if the mirror is fixed and the mirror is cleaned and the dirt is removed, then you can see your face well. So you need a mirror to be stably fixed and then also the mirror is completely clean. So then only you can see your reflection well. Same thing in the water too. If the water is very dirty and is constantly shaking, you can't see what is under the water. But if the water is still and it's very pure, you can see the bottom of the water well. So same way, the karma and the bhakti yoga are supposed to create this mental purity and mental stillness. So there is a purity part, chitta shuddhi and chitta ekagra. So the karma and bhakti upasanas give you this. And once you are doing this, then you can progress to the jnana yoga, which is the Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. So basically, you are supposed to learn all the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Geetha, the Brahma Sutra, and all the Prakarana Granthas like Vivekachudamani, Pancha, Dashee, everything under an Acharya, well-qualified Acharya, Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam, they say, like only very few people like maybe Mahaperiva, Ramana Maharishi and all would be that level. But then there are people at little bit lower levels than them, and they are the ones who are the main teachers, and so we have to, learn Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana means you learn the Upanishads first. You need to get the repeatedly here again and again sometimes. That's what Appayya Dikshitar says, Amritehe, Asuptehe. Till you sleep, till you die, you can't learning and listening this Vedanta Shravana. And that is what is called sometimes, Lord Krishna says in the Mahabharata to Duryodhana, Shuddham Bhagavatas Annam, Shuddham Bhagiradi Jalam, Shuddham Vishnupada Dhyanam, Shuddham Ekadashi Vradam. When Lord Krishna has a debate with Duryodhana, there is a question, what is cleanliness? And Krishna says these four. Duryodhana, whatever you say is cleanliness is not cleanliness. Shuddham Bhagavatasya Annam. Whatever a Bhagavata has ate and whatever is left is you eat, that is pure. So you serve a Bhagavata first and eat the remaining food, and that itself will give you purity. And then Shuddham Bhagiradi Jalam. Bhagiradi is Ganga. Take do Ganga Snana and do things like that. That is Shuddham. That also makes you clean, because Bhagiradi, we believe, not only clears the external dirt in our body, it also clears the internal sins. Malapaharini, they removes the sins of the body, also of the mind, and the vasanas are also. Basically, it is not only cleaning the body, but also cleans the sins. That's why Ganga Jala is so pure, and we also give the same importance to Kaveri too. And then comes Shuddham Vishnupada Dhyanam, meditating on the feet of Vishnu. And then comes Shuddham Ekadashi Vradam, which means you do all the Ekadashi Vrata, Upasanas and also by doing these Vratas also you get purified. So what I want to focus is Shuddham Vishnupada Dhyanam. So what is this Vishnupada Dhyanam means? You can literally take it meditating on Lord Vishnu's feet. That is one meaning. But Vishnupada Dhyanam literally means, because we believe Shruti Shira, again, there is slokas also in the Lalita Sahasranama everywhere. Ambal's feet is directly sitting on the top of the Vedas. Shruti Shirathike Alangarama irukku அப்படிங்கிறது அம்பாலோட பாதம். அதே மாதிரி விஷ்ணுக்கு there are a lot of slokas which says the feet of Vishnu are the Alankara for the, that is when Ramanujacharya writes the Vedanta Sangraha, he quotes that Shruti Vidipte Brahmani Srinivase, whose feet is residing on the top of the Vedas. So we believe that learning the Upanishads, because we believe that the feet of the Lord is sitting directly on the head of the Vedas, and the head of the Vedas is Upanishads. So when you are learning the Upanishads, you are directly meditating on the feet of the Lord. So Shuddham Vishnupada Dhyanam means meditating on the feet of Lord Vishnu. Is you can meditate on the anatomical feet, but also it means learning the Vedanta. Shuddham Vishnupada Dhyanam means literally learning the Vedanta is the meditation on the Lord Vishnu's feet. So that is why, again, it is coming. I wanted to quote that as a sloka, because and the learning the Vedanta, you do Shravana means you have to constantly hear the Upanishads, the Mahavakyas from the Gurus and Acharyas. And then Manana means you have to, logically think about it again, because we don't believe it's just blindly listening to it. Also, you have to kind of churn it. That's what we call the Samudra Mathanam in Kurmavatara. The Kurmavatara is when they are churning the ocean, the Asuras and Devas, Vasuki with the Vasuki as the snake, and then the Mantara mountain. And basically churning there actually means churning your mind. You learn the Vedanta and constantly analyze the Vakyarthascha Vicharitam. I read that sloka in the beginning in Sadhana Panchakam. Adi Shankara says Vakyarthascha Vicharitam, which means this you should Vichara means investigating it. It's not just blindly chanting the mantra. Investigating it. It doesn't say Vakya Charta Adhyayanam. It says Vakya Tarcha Vicharyata means investigate the important words of the Vedas. So that is what is Manana means. Once you constantly learn and you get the basic idea, you have to constantly churn. Is this correct? How can I, accept this meaning? So they tell that is what Shukti Yukti Anubhava they say, which means you listen first, but then you have to analyze also what you heard. Then Nididhyasana means once you get a clear concept, then you just, the Vedantic, it's called Vedantic meditation. There's a difference between yogic meditation and Vedantic meditation. That is what called the Vedantic meditation is called Nididhyasana. And there is a very nice scripture called Aparoksha Anubhuti written by Adi Shankara, where Adi Shankara teaches Vedantic meditation. Patanjali Yoga Sutra is yogic meditation, whereas Aparoksha Anubhuti, which Adi Shankara has written, is a clear example of Vedantic meditation. And Swami Vivekananda has written a nice book comparing yogic meditation and Vedantic meditation. If you go to Ramakrishna Math, you can buy, it's a very small book, very nice comparison, contrast yogic meditation with Vedantic meditation. So Nididhyasana is Vedic meditation. So that is what is there, and I don't want to spend time on describing Nididhyasana, but it is there already how to do it, and basically it's all taken only from Vyasa Maharishi. Vyasa Maharishi has given this all in all this Nididhyasana, everything in his scriptures, and that only Adi Shankara is giving to us in a much easier form. So it is not like Adi Shankara is inventing the wheel. He is basically only just whatever the Puracharyas have said, he has given it to us in a much palatable or easy form. So that is what is Nididhyasana. So Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. So you have to learn, hear the Upanishads constantly, then reflect on and investigate the meanings. And then once you are convinced about the meanings, then you do Vedantic meditation. And as you do Vedantic meditation, Vedanta Vijnana Sunishchadardaha Sanyasa Yoga, you should also go get more and more Vairagya. Like, you should be ideally sannyasi if you cannot, but at least the mental sannyasa, which Lord Krishna very clearly says in the Bhagavad Geetha, the mental renunciation is more important. So that is, you don't need to be physically wearing the robe and other things. That's very much needed also for some people, but the mental renunciation is more important. So one who combines the Vedantic meditation along with the renunciation, Sanyasa Yoga, Yade Shuddha Shadvaha, they who attain the purity of mind by practicing the Sanyasa Yoga, which is basically renunciation. So the combination of investigating and getting a clear idea of the Vedanta and the renunciation of Sanyasa, when they mix together, they Brahmaloke Tupranta Kali. Those are the people who attained the final Brahman status, or the merger with Brahman is attained only for them. So the combining of Vedanta and Sanyasa, which is the renunciation, is what is the ultimate goal. So that is what is given. So this is how you learn the Upanishads, investigate the meaning, reflect on the meaning, and then do Vedantic meditation. And as you keep on doing it itself, it will come, because in the Brahma Sutras, Shastra Yonitvat is the very important sutra given by Vedavyasa Maharishi, which means only by constantly reflecting on the Shastras and reconciling Tattu Samanvayat. And not only you should learn it from the Shastras, you should also know how to reconcile the Shastras. Shastra Yonitvat, Tattu Samanvayat. Only by doing those two, you evolve into the stage of getting the Brahma Jnana. So again, whatever Vyasa Maharishi is given, only Adi Shankara is giving to us. And Ramanujacharya all agree on this concept. They're all, the Vedantic, they are not different on, they might differ on how they interpret the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita, but they also agree the same thing. You have to learn the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, you need to reflect on the meanings of that. And that's the only way you can give, the Brahma Jnanam, and the Brahma Jnanam is one which gives you the final liberation. So Adi Shankara very clearly says, you can do so much of social service, you can do so much of building temples, but none of them is going to give liberation. That is not my word. There is very clear words like what Adi Shankara in his, so even though Nama Sankirtana, very good. Nama Sankirtana is very good, but Nama Sankirtana is not the end. There is clear word in Vivekachudamani. If you keep on doing how much pujas and Nama Sankirtana, that also is not going to help. They will all give Chitta Shuddhi only. So Vedanta Vijnanam is the most important thing, which at least Shankara philosophy believes. So now with that, what do the Upanishads tell? We talked so much about the Upanishads and Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, but generally what do the Upanishads give us? So Upanishads teach us about Jagat, Jivam, Ishwaram. Those are the three things it talks about. Jagat means the universe. You see the whole universe around you, the world, the planets, everything. So that is the Jagat. Jiva means the individual souls. We see so many people who are alive, who are live, and then we also see animals which are alive and conscious. So we call all these as Jiva. And then Ishvara is the Lord who is controlling. And Tamil, we call it as Pashu, Pati, Pasham. Pashu is all the Jivas, Pati is the Ishvara, and Pasham is the Jagat which entangles the people in samsara. So this is what is given in Tamil also in Trimular, Pashupati Pasham and Jagat Jiva Ishvara. So the Vedanta, because the entire, if you look at the world, only, some people don't believe in Ishvara, but even if you don't believe in Ishvara, you will believe in Jagat and Jiva. There are individual people, there is the universe. So even the materialistic people agree those two are there. I am alive, I can see other people alive, and I can see the universe. So Jagat and Jiva, everybody will agree. The Ishvara part, only who have the Shraddha and Samadhana and who believe the Aptavakyas, they are the ones who will believe it. So the Upanishads talk about the Jagat, they basically describe only the universe, the individual persons, and then the Ishvara. And then it also not only describes them, it also gives, it also tells you about how the creation comes about. It also tells you about how the rebirth, how the Panchagni Vidya and Chandogya Upanishad gives a very detailed idea of how the rebirth also happened. It goes through steps, how after the soul dies, it comes as a rebirth again. So these are all described in the Upanishad, and not only it describes, it also gives you how to attain liberation. It teaches you the Vedantic meditation. Both Saguna Upasana and Nirguna Upasana, both of them are described in the Upanishads. And by Saguna Upasana, you get Krama Mukti. By Nirguna Upasana, you get Jivan Mukti. So that is another concept, which means Jivan Mukti means you are liberated even when you are alive. That's only very few souls like Ramana Maharishi, Mahaperiva, and then we can count the Sadashiva Brahmendra, Tirumula. These are all considered to be Jivan Muktas, whom and then the Shringeri Acharyas like Sachidananda Shiva Swamigal, they were all considered Jivan Muktas, and which means they are alive and liberated, and it's a very the highest state, and it needs lots of sadhanas for doing that. And that is the people who are alive, they are liberated when they are alive, and once their mortal body pass, they are not born again. Whereas the Krama Mukti means you don't get liberation when after you die. You actually go to some higher lokas like Brahma Loka and all, and there Brahma or Lord Shiva, you get instruction directly from them, and during the end of their time period, you attain Mukti. So Krama Mukti means you still attain liberation, but it is like ladder wise. You go to one place, you get some learning, and after that learning only you get the Mukti. Whereas Jivan Mukti is in the earth, while you are living on earth itself, you can attain Mukti, and both of them are described in the Upanishads, both the Krama Mukti and Jivan Mukti. People who do Saguna Upasana end up getting Krama Mukti, and people who do Nirguna Upasana end up getting Jivan Mukti. So those are all described in the Upanishads. Again, this is only an introduction to Upanishads, so I'm not going to describe all the Upasanas in detail. And there's a very interesting concept in when they describe the Brahman, because the Jagat Jivam, most of the time we'll understand easily. The Brahman or the Supreme Lord, that's what we call Brahman is the Supreme Lord. And there is, how do the Upanishads describe the Supreme Lord? So they use three concepts. One is called Swarupa Lakshanam, other one is called Tatastha Lakshanam, other one is called Vyavritti Lakshanam. So these are the three ways how the Upanishads describe the Supreme Lord. Swarupa Lakshanam, I will give you a simple example to understand it. Let's say I'm going to Chicago. I want to come to Sethuraman Sir's house in Naperville. I'm wanting to go to his house. Let's say I'm going for the first time. One way of identifying Sethuraman Sir's house is, his house is a brown color. It has 4 windows. The roof is red or black. It has 10 doors, giving a full description of the house. The house which has all these quality things together and with this number in front, that is Sethuraman Sir's house. So that is one way of describing it. It is called, that is what you call Swarupa Lakshana, where you are directly describing the house. It has got 2 floors. It has got 10 windows, 2 doors, red color roof, all this. The other one is Tatastha Lakshanam, which means you are not describing the house. You will say there is one big antenna, only that in the whole street, there is only one house which has the dish antenna. The house and the dish antenna, there will be always 2 birds sitting in the morning. So the house which has the dish antenna and the two houses, that is Seduraman sir's house. So basically, you are not describing the house at all. You are telling there is something above. Just look for that sign. Wherever you see the dish antenna sitting in the whole street, that is the only house which has the dish antenna. The house which is below the dish antenna, that is only his house. That is what we call Tatastha Lakshana, which means you are giving some indirect indication to describe the house. Then comes Vyavritti Lakshana. Vyavritti Lakshana means Neti, Neti. You tell there are like 20 houses on that street. The house, this house is not green, it is not blue, it is not black, it is not brown. So all the other houses are one of these four colors. The house which is not this, not this, not this. The house which is not brown, the house which is not blue, the house which is not black or which is not white. That particular color, you are not telling the color directly, but you are telling in the color lang kadayadu. The house which has none of these colors, that house is only Seduraman sir's house. So you can describe the house in three ways. One is to directly describe the house. Other one is to describe something sitting on the top of the house and tell the house below that is that. Or you will see a big banyan tree or this big flower tree, the house which has all these nice flowers, that house is only his house. Those are all the indirect signs. And the third sign is eliminate. Not this house, not this house. So whatever is remaining after eliminating all the houses, that is only his house. So Swarupa Lakshana means it is directly describing Brahman. Tatastha Lakshana means it is giving it through indirect signs. And Vyavritti Lakshana means by telling this is not it, this is not it. And that is what Adi Shankara talks in Nirvana Shadgam. You know, I am not this, I am not the mind, I am not the body, I am not the Pancha Bhutas. All these slokas will come in Nirvana Shadgam, Dasha Shloki, everything. So that is called Adi Shankara using the Net, Sa Atma, Sa Esha Neti Neti Atma Agrihyo Nahi Grihyate. That is the exact word comes in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. It comes in 3 times. It comes in chapter 4:4:22, 4:5:15, and 2:3:16. It comes on this chapter. The same word comes. So Esha Neti Neti Atma, which means which is not this, which is not. By eliminating all this, whatever is remaining, that is the Brahman. Atma, Brahman are 2 terms which are used in the Upanishad. They are synonymous, which is the Supreme Lord. Then Tatastha Lakshana means, which is indirectly telling is, like for example, in Taittiriya Upanishad, we have this nice sloka in the Bhruguvalli, when Varuna explains to his son Bhrugu Maharishi the definition of Brahman. Yato va imani bhutani jayante ena jatani jivanti yat prahyante visham vishanti tat vigijnasasva tat brahmeti. So from where the entire creation comes, the creation is sustained and the creation goes back. So where that is one source from where the creation comes, creation is sustained. Srushti, Sthiti, Samhara, Vikel. So it is that is Brahman. So he is not directly defining Brahman. From where the creation comes, from where the creation is sustained, and from where the creation goes back, that is Brahman. Try to know it. Tat vigijnasasva. That is Brahman. Try to know it, Bhrigu. That's what Varuna says to his son. And then there is Loka goes on, and then finally one of the famous lokas comes in that where he says Anando Brahmeti Vajanat Anandat eva kalvimani bhutani jayante Anandena jatani jivanti Anandam prayante visham vishanti iti Saisha bharga vivaruni vidyam. So that goes on and the investigation goes, and finally comes to the conclusion that Anandam, the bliss, the supreme bliss is where the entire creation comes from. The entire creation is sustained, the entire creation goes back. That supreme bliss is Brahman. That's what he comes. And then comes the Anandavalli chapter. And in the Anandavalli chapter, there is a very famous sloka. That is the only sloka, the Upanishads, where it actually gives Swarupa Lakshanam. And that is Brahma vidapnoti param tadesha pyukta satyam jnanam anantam brahma yo veda nihitam guhayam parame vyoman soshnute sarvan kaman saha brahmana vipaschiteti. So that it says Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, which is the truth. Jnanam means knowledge, consciousness, those are all different terms, and bliss. So basically the one it is, though it is given by 3 terms, it is only one entity. And the Satyam Jnanam Anantam is a very big debate between Ramanujacharya and Shankaracharya. It will be hair-splitting debate how Ramanujacharya defines Satyam Satyam Jnanam Anantam, and Adi Shankara defines Satyam Jnanam Anantam, but that is the polemical part. But Satyam Jnanam Anantam, Satchitananda also comes only from that which is truth, bliss, and knowledge. So that entity is called Brahman. That is the only term which clearly describes what is Brahman itself, Satchit Ananda. So the other thing is from where creation comes is like Tatastha Lakshana. And then Neti, Sa Esha, Neti, Atma means the Atma is not this. The sloka will, I'm not telling the whole sloka, but it will eliminate not this. What is remaining is Atma. So this is the three definitions of how the Brahman is described in the Upanishads. Sorupa, Tatastha, Vyavritti Lakshana. I gave you slokas from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad and Taittiriya Upanishad, which describes them. So that is the things there. Now, basically, I want to quickly run through the major Upanishads and what they tell. It is impossible to cover them. The Ishavasya Upanishad is one of the smallest Upanishads, and that is got the very, 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 very famous slokas. That is what says, Jijevi Shadagum Shamaha, Kurban Neve Karmani, Jijevi Shadagum Shamaha. That is what Ramanujacharya likes very much. Do your karmas, Vedic karmas for 100 years and live. So that is why Ramanuja says, Upanishad says very clearly, do your karma. That is why in Ramanuja's philosophy, you cannot drop karmas even towards the deathbed. And Ramanujacharya himself, when he was 120 years, used to go to Kaveri and do Sandhya Vandana and come. So, because he uses this particular statement of Ishavasya Upanishad, but Adi Shankara's other explanation, there is clearly other chapters which tells you have to give Nakarmana, Prajaya means not by karmas you will get this moksha. So that is very clearly. So Adi Shankara catches hold of that statement. Nak karmana na prajadane nadya keneka amrudattam anashuhu. So the amrudattam, the immortality is obtained only by sacrificing even the karmas. So the Ishavasya Upanishad gives that statement, and there is another statement. Avidyayam mrityum tirtva vidyayam amrudamashnute. Like I'm not telling entire Upanishad, but these are all like very salient words which come. Avidyayam mrityum tirtva vidyayam amrudamashnute means Avidya means basically ignorance, if you literally mean it. Vidya means knowledge. So if you interpret this sloka by ignorance, avidyaya mrityum tirtva, you will cross death by avidya, and vidyayam amrudamashnute, by vidya you will attain immortality. So how will ignorance cause you cross death? So Adi Shankara interprets avidya as karma and upasana. So because even the Kero Upanishad tells, ones who keep on doing karmas is like a pashu. So basically, you are like pashu means like the cow, not the pashu in Pashupati Pasham, but pashu like cow. It says like that. Keno Upanishad has very specific slokas which says one who keep on doing upasanas is like pashu. So avidya means Adi Shankara says one who keeps on doing karmas and upasanas, he is avidya, but you need that. That is why by doing karmas and upasanas, avidyayam mrityum tirtva, you cross over death. But vidyayam amrudamashnute, you attain immortality only by knowledge, which is the Upanishad knowledge thing. So these are like some salient points in Ishavasya Upanishad. And then if you go to Taittiriya Upanishad, we know it has got the Siksha Valli, the Bhrigu Valli, the Ananda Valli, and the Narayana Valli. Those are the four important subsets of the Taittiriya Upanishad. Siksha Valli is full of Upadesha. It's a Esha Adeshaka, Esha Upadeshakam. If you read the Siksha Valli, it is all full of instructions. Satyam, Mada, Dharmam, Charam. Swadhyayam pramadaha, which means learning is the important thing. And then Satyana pramadidavyam, Dharmana pramadidavyam, Kushalana pramadidavyam, Buddhaina pramadidavyam. It says follow Satya, follow Dharma, follow pleasures in life. And then, and also learn Swadhyaya pravachanabhyana pramadidavyam, learn the Vedas and also teach the Vedas. Swadhyaya pravachanabhyam pramadidavyam. These are all instructions given in the Siksha Valli. There is also Vedanta given there. The Trishangu story and all which comes there, all very nice Vedantic concepts which explains Brahman there. So the Siksha Valli is there. Then the Bhrigu Valli part is where the discussion between Varuna and Bhrigu Maharishi, and that is the one which teaches the Pancha Kosha Viveka, which is the Annamaya Sharira, Pranamaya Sharira, Manomaya Sharira, Vijnanamaya Sharira, Anandamaya Sharira, the Pancha Koshas, which is very elaborately discussed by all the Acharyas, Ramanujacharya in Vishishtadvaita, Shankara, Vidyaranya, Swami, Appayya Dikshitar in their works. The Panchakosha Viveka is very, very important. That is taken only from the Bhrigu Valli. How layer by layer you attain the Atma. You eliminate this. You go through one by step and you go to that. And then that's the Bhrigu Valli there. And finally you realize it's bliss. And then the Ananda Valli. Ananda Valli is which describes the bliss of Brahman, because we are telling Brahman is Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Anandam. Anantam means infinite. The Brahman is not only Anantam, which is infinite, but also Anandam, it is bliss. One who has realized, experienced Brahman, it is the highest bliss. Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita, Sukasya Aikantikasya cha. In his 14th chapter, Shukam, it says the Brahman state is like Shukama Arjuna, and it is the Aikantikasya means it's isolated and it is free of other defects. Sukasya Aikantikasya cha, that is the definition which Lord Krishna himself says, one who goes beyond the three gunas. So that it is considered a very blissful state, the final Brahman Jnana state, So that is what the Ananda Valli describes it in detail. It goes from ordinary material pleasures, it takes higher level. And there is a very, very important statement which comes in Ananda Valli. All of our word Ananda Valli, Shrotriyasha cha akamahatasya. That word comes several times in Ananda Valli. Shrotriyasha akamahatasya. Shrotriya means one who knows the meaning of the Vedas. He not only knows the Vedas, he knows the meaning of the Vedas, which means he has understood the Vedic, both the Karma Kanda and the Jnana Kanda. Well, he also not only knows the mantras, he also knows the meaning of it. That is what is called a Shrotriya. Akamaha means one who has no desires. And this is exactly what we said. Vedanta Vijnana Sunishyadartha Sannyasa Yoga. One who has no desires only is like a sannyasi. So one who knows the Vedas well, and one who has no desires, he will get the same bliss what everybody else, even the Prajapati Anandaha, even the Ananda which Brahma gets, the same Ananda, this person who has Shotri Shakamagatasya. So one who knows the Vedanta well and who has got the mental desires renounced, all that is the same person will get the same Ananda. So that is what is described in Anandavalli. So Siksha Valli, Bhruguvalli, Anandavalli. And the Narayana Valli is it's a bigger one. It has a lot of subdivisions in it. In fact, the Sannyasa Suktam comes only from the Narayana Valli part. And it has the Ambasya Pare, that is how it starts. So that is another Upanishad, but the main concepts are there in Siksha, Bhrigu and Anandavalli. And Narayana Valli has pretty much a repetition of these concepts, but it also has individual mantras. The Narayana mantra comes there, the Shiva, the Sadashiva, the Pancha, the 5-phase Shiva mantra comes there, everything comes there also. So that is that. So that is the Ishavasya Upanishad and Taittiriya Upanishad. The Katha Upanishad is the main discussion between Nachiketa and Yamadharmaraja. It has 3 chapters and each chapter has 2 subdivisions. So basically there is a very nice, it goes through, it starts when there is a very famous state. There are 2 important statements, Preyas and Shreyas. Those are the 2 terms which Yamadharmaraja mentions to Nachiketa. And I remember Preyas is like P for pleasure. Shreyas means supreme good. So yes for yes. So Yamadharmaraja distincts to Nachiketa, Nachiketa, there are 2 things in the earth, Preyas and Shreyas. Preyas means all the pleasures you have in the earth. Shreyas means the supreme good. Only the people who are Vidwans will choose the supreme good. They will not look for the pleasures. And the Shreyas is basically, again, this mind control, the sense control, learning the Vedanta, and he elaborates later the Shreyas concept and everything. And Tad Vishnu or Paramam Padam, that's a very famous statement which comes in Katha Upanishad. The state of Vishnu is attained. Yamadharmaraja states, and that's what Ramanacharya holds, that Yamadharma himself says Vishnu or Paramapadam, that's why reaching Vishnu is the highest state, but the interpretation is different between the Acharyas. But Tad Vishnu or Paramam Padam, that famous statement comes only in Katha Upanishad, the Shreyas and Preyas, and then the description of the chariot, where the horses, the reins, the charioteer, the chariot, and the one who is the owner of the chariot, the Rati and the Sharati. The Sharati is the one who drives the chariot, and the Rati is the owner of the chariot. So this concept of explaining the the different levels of the mind, the intellect, and how by controlling the intellect, the Atma can progress well. So this the chariot concept, the Shreyas Preyas concept, how to attain Tad Vishnu or Paramapadam, the highest state of Vishnu, how it can be attained. All this is described in the Katha Upanishad. So Ishavasya, Taittiriya, Katha Upanishad. Then comes the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. It's called Brihad Aranyakam. Brihad itself means big. So it's one of the biggest Upanishads. It has 6 chapters, but are very, very large chapters. And Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, and there is the Antaryami Brahmana, which is very favorite for Ramanujacharya, whereas the Neti, which I was just telling, it's not this, not this. So Shankaracharya gives importance to the Neti concept, whereas Ramanujacharya gives importance to the Antaryami Brahmana, which is in the 4th chapter, the discussion between Yagyavaka Maharishi and the Ushastaka Hola and Uddala Karuni, all those rishis, they're discussing each chapter there. So the Antaryami Brahmana is very, very important. So there is Jyotir, there is Jyotisham, Jyotir Vidya, the Jyotir, Swayam Jyoti Brahmanam, the Antaryami Brahmanam. These are all the different subdivisions of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. And the Jyotisham, Jyotish Vidya, that is why we say the Lord is the light of lights. That comes from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. So there is, it's a big Upanishad, but there is a lot of Maitreyi Brahmanam. That is where in Maitreyi Brahmanam is where Yagyavaka Maharishi is teaching Maitreyi's wife about Brahma Vidya, and that is where he brings this concept Shravana, Manana, Atmave, Drashtavya, Shrotravya, Mantravya, Drashtavya. Maitreyi, this Atma should be heard, analyzed, and meditated. Shrotavya, Mantavya, Nididasitavya. The terms comes there. That's where, so we ask where the Shravana, Manana, Nididasana comes. It comes in the Upanishad itself. Yagyavaka Maharishi is telling to Maitreyi, this is the procedure, Maitreyi. You have to listen to it, you have to analyze it, and then you have to meditate on it. So, Shrotavya, Mantavya, Mantavya, Nididasitavya. So, the terms where we do Shravana, Manana, Nididasana itself comes only specifically in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad itself. So, that is the important chapters there. Keno Upanishad is where the chapter is in Samaveda. And the Keno Upanishad is where it's 4 chapters. And the most important chapter is, and in Keno Upanishad only it says that you are a Pashu. If you keep on doing pujas, you are a Pashu only. It says, Yen Bachana Abhyudidam Ena Vak Abhyudyate Tateva Brahmatvam Vitti Netam Etitam Upasate. It's a very specific statement there. Yen Bachana Abhyudidam Ena Vak Abhyudyate. You cannot speak about it, but your speech is because of that. Same thing it will tell. You cannot think about it, but your thinking is because of that. So the Brahman is behind your thinking, your speech, everything. Netam etitam upasate. Not what you are doing pujas every day. That is not Brahman. It specifically says Netam etitam upasate. What you are doing pujas every day, that is not Brahman. The one which is behind your speech and your mind, but the speech and the mind cannot describe it. That is what is Brahman. Is a very specific statement. Yen Vachana, it goes on like that. Yena Pranana Reniyate. It is not the pranas, is not Brahm, is nothing, but the one which is behind which is even activating your pranas. There's a very, very nice slokas which will come in Keno Upanishad. And then the famous Triyama Jagama Bahushopamana Umagum Haimavatim. Mahapariva likes that sloka very much. It comes in the 3rd chapter of the Keno Upanishad where Ambal is testing, Indra is coming, Agni is coming, he claims he's great, but he cannot burn anything. Vayu says he cannot even blow a simple straw. And then Indra comes, and that's only Ambal shows the form and says, all your powers are coming only from the Brahman. So don't be too boastful of yourselves. So that is what it says, where the power for everybody comes only from one source. So those are all important concepts which come in there in the Keno Upanishad. So those are all. And then the Chandogya Upanishad is the biggest. Another, both Brihadaranyaka and Chandogya are the biggest Upanishads. And the law, in fact, in the Brahma Sutra, Vyadavyasa, 32 Brahma Vidyas are described. 16 of those Brahma Vidyas are coming only from Chandogya Upanishad only. So, of the 32 Brahma Vidyas described, 16, half of it comes from Chandogya Upanishad. Is a very elaborate chapters are there. Sadvidya, and I will tell you just enumerate the chapters later, but it has a lot of important concepts, and that's where the Panchagni Vidya is there. Panchagni Vidya is there in both Chandogya Upanishad and Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. The Panchagni Vidya is the 5 fires, Pancha Agni. And the 5 fires describe you the entire cycle of birth and death, how death happens and what happens to the soul after the death, how does it, where does it go, where does it come back for rebirth. This is all very detailedly described. It's called Panchagni Vidya, and it is present only in Chandogya Upanishad. And it's also the same, is repeated in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad also. And then the famous Vaishwanara Vidya, Dakhara Vidya, Bhuma Vidya, that Brahman is infinite. How do you know that Brahman is infinite? That comes in Bhuma Vidya. Sanat Kumar and Narada Samvada in the 7th chapter of Chandogya Upanishad describes the Bhuma, which is it's infinite and it's all pervading, and it's a concept which you cannot imagine how big it is. So those are all coming in the Chandogya Upanishad. And then when you go to the Aitreya Upanishad in the Rig Veda, the Aitreya Upanishad is what it's a small Upanishad, but it describes creation. It's one of the creation comes in a lot of the Upanishads. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad also describe creation, but the Aitreya Upanishad gives a little bit more detail, how the worlds, the lokas come, and everything from the Puranas come only from Aitreya Upanishad. The Srishti which comes in Bhagavatam or Shiva Puranam and all, they are all details of the Aitreya Upanishad only. Aitreya Upanishad describes the Srishti well, and Aitreya Upanishad has the most important statement, Prajnanam Brahma. It says, Brahma is, Prajnana means it's conscious, it is not a dead entity. Like the Sadvidya in Chandogya Upanishad, that's where the Tattvamasi Mahavakya comes. You are that. You are Brahman itself. And the Sad, it is the real truth. Satyasya Satyam, it is the truth, though you cannot see it. The Sadvidya and Tattvamasi Mahavakya come into the Chandogya Upanishad. Whereas the Prajnanam Brahma, Brahman is consciousness, which means it is an alive entity. It is not an inert entity. So that Prajnanam Brahma, that's a very important concept which comes in the Aitreya Upanishad. So the Shrishti and even the rebirth is explained in a much simpler form. It doesn't go through the details like Panchakti Vidya. The rebirth is also explained in Aitreya Upanishad also. So the rebirth, the creation of the world, and then the consciousness of Brahman is described there. So the Satchit Ananda, if you look at the term Satchit Ananda, the Sadvidya, it is Sat, is described in Chandogya Upanishad. The Chid, the Brahman is consciousness and knowledge, is described in Aitreya Upanishad. And the Ananda, its Brahman is bliss, is described in Anandavalli in Taittiriya Upanishad. The Satchit Ananda, though it come in different chapters, and this is what Vyasa teaches us in Brahma Sutra, how to combine the teachings in different Upanishads and put it in. You have to combine certain teachings and so those things, and that's how you get the clear concept. So the Sat, Chit and Ananda are given in different places, but how to combine them, that's what Vyasa Maharishi explains in the Brahma Sutras. So that is basically the Kaushitaki Upanishad is other part of the Rig Veda. The Kaushitaki Upanishad is one which describes, which is very favorite for Swami Vedanta Desikendra and Ramanujacharya, because it actually describes the Brahma Loka. There is a description because Ramanujacharya wrote Vaikunta Gadyam. He describes Vaikunta. They asked, did you see Vaikunta anywhere? How are you describing Vaikunta? He says it is given in Vedas itself. Go and read the Kaushitaki Upanishad. So it's called Paryanka Vidya, Pratardhana Vidya, Paryanka Vidya, and Balak Ajal Vidya. 3 Vidyas come in the Kaushitaki Upanishad. The Pratardhana, the Paryanka Vidya is description of the Brahma Loka. It gives a very detailed description of how the Brahma Loka is. Kramamukti, how does the soul goes after death from here. And that's what Lord Krishna also describes in the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, the Kramamukti chapter. So the Archis, Ahuhu, Sukla Paksha, Uttarayana, how the soul goes after death through Kramamukti to Brahma Loka, that is very described in Kaushitaki. It's also described in Chandogya Upanishad also, but that is a very speciality of Kaushitaki Upanishad. And Balak Ajala Vidya, that is one of the chapters which explain the sleep concept. What is sleep? What is dream? What is wakefulness? So that is also described in the Kaushitaki Upanishad. And then comes the Atharvana Upanishad, the Mundaka Upanishad, Mandukya Upanishad, and Prashna Upanishad. Those are the important 3 Upanishads which come in the Atharva Veda. And the Mundaka Upanishad, there are like very famous statements in Mundaka Upanishad, and Adi Shankara says in Vivekachudamani specifically the exalted Atharvana Veda. Though he quotes from Rig, Yajur, Sama, Atharvana Veda and all, he specifically says in Vivekachudamani the exalted Atharvana Veda. The Atharvana Veda's Upanishads are so highly respected by Adi Shankara, like the famous term Satyameva Jayate na Anrutam Satyena Panta Vidato Devayanaha Ena Kramat Rishayohi Aptakama Yatra Tat Satyasya Paramam Nidanam Satyameva Jayate. That's what our Indian things, our constitution ever says. The Satyameva Jayate comes only from the word Satyameva, which means Satyam alone means truth alone triumphs. That is a very famous word which comes from Mundaka Upanishad. Satyameva Jayate na Anrutam. Anrutam means false. The falsehood will never win. It is only Satyena Panta Vidato Devayanaha. Only by following the truth, the rishis attained the final liberation. So how important is given. And then Na Chakshusha Grihyate Napi Vacha Nanir Devaistapasa Karma Nava Jnana Prasadena Vishuddha Sattvaha Tatasutam Pashyate Nishkalam Dhyayamanaham. This is what Adi Shankara tells in Vivekachudamani. Na Chakshusha Grihyate Nabi Vacha Nanir Devais Tapasa Karmanava Jnana Prasadena Vishuddha Sattvaha Tatasutam Pashyate Nishkalam Dhyayamanaham. Basically, not by doing all this Deva Tapas, Deva Karmana and all, you are not going to get the final liberation. Jnana Prasadam Vishuddha Sattva, the mind which is fully in Sattva and which has gone the Prasadam of Jnanam, Tatastutam Pashyate Nishkalam Dhyayamanaha. Those are the rishis who attain the Nirguna Mukti, the Jivan Mukti. Nishkalam Dhyayam, one who sees everything as partless, as one undivided entity. So those are the important statements which come in the Mundaka Upanishad. And then in the Mandukya Upanishad is what describes the three states: the dream, deep sleep, and wakefulness. Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti. It's a very small, it's in fact the smallest of all Upanishads. Ishavasya Upanishad at least has 20 slokas. Mandukya Upanishad is only like 12 slokas. But it is the most deepest meaning. And that is why Gaudapada Acharya wrote Mandukya Karika. He wrote only for one Upanishad. He chose only the Mandukya Upanishad. And Mandukya Karika is very famous by Gaudapada Acharya. That Upanishad in 12 slokas explain, because all of us go through this state. We are either waking, or we are dreaming, or we are in deep sleep. So what is this waking? What is this dream? What is the deep sleep? All this is explained in the Mandukya Upanishad. So these are all the important concepts there. So this is kind of the brief idea of all the important things described in the Upanishads. I'm just giving an overview of the different things. And then I'm telling of the 32 Brahma Vidyas: Sadvidya, Bhuma Vidya, Dahara Vidya, Vaishwanara Vidya, Panchagni Vidya, Samvarga Vidya, Satyakama Jabala Vidya, Upakoshala Vidya, Akshi Vidya, Shandilya Vidya, Paramjodi Vidya, Madhu Vidya, Gayatri Vidya, Prana Vidya, Akasha Vidya, Antaraditya Vidya. These are the 16 Vidyas which are described in the Chandogya Upanishad, and each of them describes one particular facet of Brahman. So it is not like each of them give you a different concept, and sometimes you have to pull the concepts to get one particular concept. So this is all the different, I'm just giving the glimpse of all the Vidyas present there. And and when you go through this itself, I want to just finish with this final sloka from the Prashna Upanishad, because I told you that is the last Upanishad I want to talk about. And in the Prashna Upanishad, the Krama Mukti and Jivan Mukti are well described. For example, in the 5th chapter of the Prashna Upanishad, there is one sloka. Yap punaredam trimatrena omit eteneva aksharena param purusham abhidyayita sa tejasi surya sampannaham yata pado darastvacha vinirmuchyata evam havai sabbapmana vinirmuktaham sa samabhihi unniyate brahma lokam sa tasmat jiva ganat parat param purushayam purusham ikshate tade taushloko bhavataham. This comes in the end of the 5th chapter, where it is said, Brahma Lokam, you go, the rishis who follows this go to Brahma Lokam. Jiva Ganat Parat Param Purushayam, the one who is the leader of all the jivas, the Hiranyagarbha, which is the supreme Saguna's Lord, you will see him face to face. Jiva Ganat Parat Param Purushayam Purusham Ikshate. You will see that Lord, and by seeing the Lord and learning from him, you will attain Mukti. So that is the Krama Mukti. And then there is the last chapter, this chapter in the 6th sloka. In the 6th chapter, there is this sloka which says, Sa yedema nadyaha shantamanaha samudrayanaha samudram prapyastam gachanti vidyate tasam nama rupe samudra idyevam proshyate evam evasya paridrashtiramaha shodasha kalaha purushayanaha purusham prapyastam gachanti vidyate tasam nama rupe purusha idyevam proshyate sa yesho akalo amurdo bhavati tatesha slokaham. What it says is, it describes the entire creation in 16. Sodashakala means 16 parts. But the 16 parts, like the rivers, merge into the ocean and become one with the ocean. For the person who has done this upasana, the Nirguna upasana, like how all the rivers merge into one ocean and become the ocean, it is no longer called river, it is only called ocean. Same way, the 16-part Purusha, Sodashakala merges into the supreme Brahman, and it becomes one with Brahman. And Akalo Amrito Bhavati, it has no part and it is immortal. So that is the Nirguna Mukti discussion. So the Nirguna Mukti, the Jivan Mukti, which comes through Nirguna Upasana, is described in the 6th chapter of Prashna Upanishad, whereas the going to Brahma Loka and getting Mukti through that is the Krama Mukti is described in the 5th chapter of the Prashna Upanishad. So that is what I want to explain to you, how the Krama Mukti and Jivan Mukti are described both. And Ramanujacharya gives more importance to Krama Mukti. Adi Shankara gives more importance to the Jivan Mukti, but he also includes the Krama Mukti for people who cannot attain Jivan Mukti. Mangalam Koshalendraya Mahaniya Gunapte Chakravarti Tanujaya Sarvabhaumaya Mangalam Shriyak Kantaya Kalyananade Ertinam Shri Venkatanivasaya Srinivasaya Mangalam.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Thank you very much, Jambunathan sir. just as Lord Krishna gave the essence of Upanishads to Arjuna, Sarvopanishado Gavo, and so on. Likewise, you gave us an excellent Sara of the Upanishads to us in our present world, in present time, on a 90-minute time scale. So we are extremely fortunate. Our Parama Bhagyam, our good fortune, Sukritam, to have joined this wonderful satsangam. On behalf of KKSF, our sincere gratitude to you, sir. You covered a lot of topics. I'll just say that I'm sure every one of us has got a ton of homework to do. If you had to go back and listen to the recording, your deep subject knowledge on every aspect of it, of our spiritual texts, not just Upanishads, but all the other parts of the Vedic literature. Your ability to bring them all together and connecting them to various works of various Mahans like Adi Shankara, Ramanujacharya, Vedanta Desikar, Swami Vivekananda, Vidyaranya Swamiji, and of course Bhagavad Geetha, Lord Krishna, and so on and so forth. It's just amazing. You're a walking encyclopedia of our spiritual texts is very apparent. On behalf of KKSF, again, our thanks to you. I personally, I can say that this was a long time coming, so we are fortunate that we could have it today. And we look forward to more such satsangams. And just for the benefit of everybody, Dr. Jambunathan is one of the teachers of our Deivathin Kural class that we have every week. Also, Subramaniam Sundareshan, or Subbi Mama, who was the guest speaker during last month's Kamakoti Parayana Mandali program. He's also one of the teachers of the weekly Deivathin Kural class. Every Thursday from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. Central Time we meet. In fact, it is 1 hour later for Dr. Jambunathan. Since he's in Detroit, he still takes the time to attend the class and educate us and give us the bodha or teachings. Once again, on behalf of KKSF, I would also like to thank every one of you who has attended today, who will be watching. Please take your time to replay and review the philosophical content here and do the Shravana Manana Nididhyasanam, as Dr. Jambunathan rightly said. We all need that. And personally, I know that this is, if it can get us on 1% path towards Mumukritvam, that will be a great thing personally for me. Once again, Jambunathan sir, thank you on behalf of KKSF. We are indeed fortunate to have had this wonderful satsangam today.
Thank you for the kind words and all blessings of Perivas, and thank you for hosting me.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure. Everybody, thanks again for joining. Please watch out for email. We will hopefully have our next Kamakoti Parayana Mandali program during the next month. Look forward to your support and satsangam. Thank you. Jai Jai Shankara, Hare Hare Shankara.